Seoul glittered under the night sky. Neon lights danced across the wet pavement, casting reflections of red, blue, and gold. The city was alive, laughter echoing from bars, couples strolling hand in hand, the hum of traffic filling the streets, but for Amara Johnson, it was overwhelming. At just 25, she had traveled far from home in New York for a work conference, her first time in Korea. Everything fascinated her, the food, the language, the culture, but tonight, exhaustion weighed heavy on her shoulders. She clutched her phone, checking the map again. The main street was crowded, and in her eagerness to find a shortcut back to her hotel, she slipped into a narrow alley. The mistake was instant, a sharp crack split the air. Gunfire, Amara froze. The world spun as men in dark suits ran past, some firing weapons, others falling to the ground. The alley echoed with chaos, shouts in Korean, the clang of metal, the pounding of boots against the wet ground. Her chest tightened. She wanted to scream, but no sound came, and then she saw him. At the center of the chaos stood a man, tall, broad-shouldered, his black coat whipping in the night wind. His presence commanded the scene. His movements were swift, precise, deadly. And his eyes. His eyes burned with a cold, dangerous fire. Dong-ho, the name she did not yet know, but the man who would change her life forever. Their eyes locked for a brief second. Amara's breath caught. For a moment it was as if the chaos had faded, leaving only him, the stranger who looked at her as though he could see straight through her soul. Who the hell is that? A gunman shouted in Korean, pointing toward her. Panic surged through Amara as one of them lunged in her direction. No, please. She gasped, stumbling backward. But before the attacker could reach her, Dong-ho moved, like a shadow. He was there, his hand twisting the man's wrist, the gun clattering to the ground. With a brutal strike, Dong-ho dropped him, the sound of his body hitting the pavement echoing like thunder. Amara's knees trembled. Her mind screamed run, but her body was frozen. Dong-ho turned to her, his expression unreadable, his voice deep and commanding. Why are you here? I was just passing through, she stammered, words tumbling out in fear. I didn't see anything. I swear I didn't see anything. He stepped closer, his sharp gaze scanning her face, her trembling hands, the panic in her eyes, and then, with terrifying certainty, he said, "You saw too much." Before she could protest, Dong-ho's hand closed around her wrist. His grip was firm, unyielding. He pulled her toward a sleek black car waiting at the end of the alley. Wait. Where are you taking me? Amara cried, struggling against his hold. His jaw tightened, his voice low, filled with an authority that brooked no argument. To keep you alive. The car door slammed shut behind her, sealing her fate. As the vehicle sped into the Seoul night, Amara's heart pounded. She didn't know who this man was, or why he had chosen to save her. All she knew was that she had stepped into a world of shadows, a world where danger and desire walked hand in hand. And the man sitting beside her, Dong-ho, was at the very center of it. The car sliced through the Seoul night like a phantom, its black windows shielding the world inside. Rain poured harder, blurring the glowing city lights. Amara sat stiff in the back seat, her pulse thundering. Every bump in the road, every glance from the driver in the rearview mirror, made her skin prickle. But the man beside her. He terrified her most. Dong-ho, he hadn't spoken since they left the alley. He sat still, his dark eyes fixed on the window, his presence overwhelming. Power radiated from him, quiet, controlled, lethal. Amara couldn't stand the silence. Please, she whispered, her voice trembling. I don't belong here. I didn't see anything. Just let me go. Dong-ho's gaze shifted to her, sharp and unyielding. His jaw flexed, as if her plea irritated him. You think it's that simple? He said finally, his voice deep, low, dangerous. You were seen. That means you're a target. If I leave you now, You'll be dead by sunrise. The words hit her like a slap. Dead. By sunrise, her throat tightened. Then why me? Why not let them? She stopped herself. The thought too terrifying to finish. For a split second, something flickered in his eyes, anger, pain, maybe both, because I decide who lives. And I decided you don't die tonight. The car slowed, pulling up to a towering skyscraper in the heart of the city. Its glass facade glittered like a jewel, but to Amara, it looked like a cage. Dong-ho stepped out first, his tall frame cutting a sharp figure against the rain. He extended his hand, not in kindness, but in command, "Get out." Amara hesitated. Her instincts screamed to run, but one look at the men stationed near the entrance told her escape wasn't an option. She placed her hand in his, and his grip closed around hers like steel. The elevator ride was silent, except for the steady hum as they soared upward. Amara's heart hammered faster with every floor they passed. When the doors opened, she gasped. The penthouse stretched wide, with floor-to-ceiling windows revealing the glittering Seoul skyline. Marble floors gleamed under soft golden lights. Everything screamed wealth, power, and control, but Amara felt no comfort here. Dong-ho shrugged off his coat, tossing it across a leather chair. His movements were smooth, precise, the kind of man used to control, used to obedience. "Sit," he commanded, motioning to the couch. Her eyes narrowed. "I'm not your prisoner." He arched a brow, amused by her defiance. "No. You're my responsibility. And until it's safe, you'll stay here." Amara clenched her fists. "I didn't ask for your protection." Dong-ho stepped closer, the air between them thick with unspoken tension. His presence was overwhelming, his voice sharp but calm. "You think I wanted this either? You were in the wrong place at the wrong time. If you'd walked away unnoticed, I would have let you go. But now, they saw you. That makes you mine to protect. Whether you like it or not." Her breath caught. Mine to protect. The words echoed inside her chest, stirring something she didn't want to feel. She shook her head. "You don't even know me." A faint smirk curved his lips. "I know enough, Amara Johnson." Her eyes widened. How do you know my name?" But he only turned away, loosening his tie as though the conversation bored him. Amara's heart raced with fear and something else she couldn't name. She should hate him, should want nothing but to escape. Yet something about him, the danger, the mystery, pulled her in like gravity, as she lay awake that night in the guest room. Staring at the glittering skyline, one truth burned in her mind: Dong-ho was no ordinary man. He was danger and desire wrapped into one. And now, she was part of his world, Dong-ho's double life. The sun crept through the wide glass windows of the penthouse, casting a golden glow across the marble floor. For a brief moment, Amara forgot where she was. The city stretched endlessly outside, beautiful and alive. Then reality struck. She wasn't in her hotel. She wasn't free. She was in the home of Dong-ho, the man who had dragged her from the alley, the man who lived and breathed danger. Her stomach tightened as she sat up, clutching the silk sheets. She didn't know what terrified her more, being trapped in his world, or the strange curiosity pulling her deeper into it. A faint clatter came from the kitchen. Amara stepped carefully across the open space, her bare feet silent against the cold floor. And there he was, Dong-ho, not in a dark coat or drenched in rain, not with a gun in his hand, but in a white shirt, sleeves rolled up, his strong forearms exposed as he poured coffee into a glass mug. His hair fell slightly across his forehead, and the faint morning light softened his sharp features. For a moment, Amara froze. This man couldn't be the same ruthless figure she'd seen last night. He looked human. Dong-ho glanced up, his eyes locking onto hers instantly. She flinched, caught staring. "You should eat," he said calmly. sliding a plate of fresh fruit across the counter. "I don't need your hospitality," Amara shot back, crossing her arms. "I just need to leave." He leaned casually against the counter, sipping his coffee like her words didn't matter. But his gaze, sharp, penetrating, never left her. "If you walk out now," he said evenly, "you won't survive 2 hours. My enemies already know your face. They'll come for you. You don't understand how dangerous this world is." Her chest rose and fell as anger flared. "Then tell me, Dong-ho. Explain what kind of world I've been dragged into. Who are you really?" His eyes narrowed, his jaw tightening. For a long moment, silence filled the air, heavy and suffocating. Finally, he set the cup down, stepping closer until the heat of his presence wrapped around her like fire. "You want the truth?" His voice was low, dangerous. "I live in 2 worlds. By day, I'm a businessman. I build, I trade, I smile for cameras. But at night, I rule what others fear. The underworld, the shadows, the blood. I didn't choose it. The world made me this way." Amara's breath hitched. His honesty rattled her, but it wasn't just his words, it was the pain she glimpsed in his eyes, buried beneath layers of control. She swallowed hard. "So, which one is the real you?" Dong-ho smirked faintly, though there was no warmth in it. "They're both me. The man you see in daylight. And the monster in the dark." Her pulse raced. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but something inside her held her ground. She raised her chin. "I don't fear you." For the first time, Dong-ho's expression shifted, a flicker of surprise, then amusement. His lips curved slightly, dangerously. "Not yet." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed sharply on the counter. His face hardened as he answered, speaking rapidly in Korean. His tone turned cold, businesslike, as though a mask had slammed back into place. A few seconds later, he ended the call and grabbed his jacket. He looked at her, his voice clipped but firm. "Stay inside. No matter what. Don't open the door. Don't answer the phone. Do you understand?" Amara's stomach twisted. "Where are you going?" Dong-ho's gaze lingered on her for a beat too long. Then, without a word, he walked out. The heavy door slamming shut behind him, the silence that followed was deafening. Amara wrapped her arms around herself, staring at the city through the massive windows. She should be terrified of him, she told herself. She should hate him, and yet. She couldn't stop thinking about the man who looked at her as if she was more than just a stranger caught in his war, the man who lived in shadows. And was pulling her into them, piece by piece. The hours crawled by slowly in the penthouse. Amara paced the length of the living room, restless, her mind a storm. Every detail of the past 24 hours haunted her, the gunfire, the blood, the icy authority in Dong-ho's voice. But what unsettled her most was the contradiction. How could a man so dangerous also be the one who made her feel strangely safe? The sound of the elevator doors sliding open snapped her from her thoughts. She stiffened, heart pounding. Dong-ho stepped inside, but he wasn't alone. Beside him walked a girl, no older than 16, delicate features framed by long black hair. Her eyes, wide and bright, lit up as she ran to the window, pressing her palms against the glass. Amara blinked, confused. "Who is she?" Dong-ho's tone was softer now, almost tender. "Yoon-hee," he said gently, "don't lean too hard on the glass." The girl pouted but obeyed. Then she turned to Amara with a curious smile. "Appa, is this your friend?" She asked in Korean accented English. Amara froze. "Appa? Brother?" Dong-ho's eyes flicked briefly to Amara, then back to his sister. "This is Amara," he said simply. Amara's lips parted, but no words came. Dong-ho, the ruthless mafia boss, the man who ruled shadows, had a little sister. And around her, he wasn't the cold, unreadable figure she'd come to know. He was human. Yoon-hee skipped over and extended her hand. Nice to meet you. Amara hesitated, then shook it, offering a faint smile. Nice to meet you too. Dong-ho set a bag of groceries on the counter, pulling out snacks and small treats. He handed one to Yoon-hee, who squealed in delight before disappearing into a side room. Amara crossed her arms, her voice low but firm. You have a sister. And you didn't think to mention that before dragging me here. Dong-ho met her glare without flinching. My family is none of your concern. Her frustration flared. None of my concern. You've pulled me into your world, Dong-ho. You've put me in danger. And now I find out you have a sister you're hiding. What else aren't you telling me? For the first time, his composure cracked. His voice hardened, but his eyes betrayed something deeper. I don't owe you answers. Everything I've done to protect her. To protect what's mine. You don't understand what it's like to lose everything. And then have one last piece of light left to guard. Amara's breath caught. The pain in his voice was raw, unfiltered, unlike anything he'd shown before. Her anger softened, just slightly. So this. All of this. It's for her. Dong-ho didn't reply. He just turned away, pouring himself a glass of whiskey. But the silence was enough. Amara studied him, her heart warring with itself. She should hate him. He was dangerous, ruthless, the kind of man she'd sworn she'd never get close to, but seeing him with his sister, the tenderness in his voice, the burden in his eyes, she couldn't deny the truth anymore. There was more to Dong-ho than the monster he claimed to be, and the more she saw of his hidden world, the more dangerous her own heart became. The penthouse felt different that night, too quiet. Too heavy. Amara sat curled on the couch, watching the rain streak across the windows. Every time thunder rumbled, she jumped, her nerves raw from days of being trapped in Dong-ho's world, but this time, the unease wasn't just from the storm. She could feel it, something dangerous lurking beyond the silence. Dong-ho stood near the window, his back to her, one hand tucked in his pocket while the other held a cigarette he never lit. His mind was somewhere far away, but his body was tense, like a predator waiting for the first sign of attack. Finally, Amara broke the silence. Why are you so on edge? He didn't look at her. Because they've found out about you. Her stomach dropped. What do you mean? Found out? His jaw tightened. The rival clan. They know there was a witness. They know I brought you here. That makes you my weakness. And in this world. He turned, his eyes burning into hers. Weaknesses are destroyed. Amara's breath caught, her heart pounding. So what now? Do you just keep me locked away until they forget about me? He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming, his voice low and steady. You think I like this? You think I wanted you here? He leaned in, his words sharp but his eyes conflicted. But if they touch you, Amara, if they even breathe near you, I will burn their entire empire to the ground. She stared at him, stunned by the intensity in his voice. There was no hesitation, no doubt. He meant every word. Her chest tightened. Fear, anger, and something far more dangerous swirled inside her. Why me? She whispered. Why risk everything for me? I'm just nobody. For a moment, Dong-ho didn't answer. His eyes scanned her face as if searching for the words, then, without warning, his hand cupped her jaw, his thumb brushing against her cheek. Because I can't stop thinking about you. Amara's lips parted in shock, her heart slamming against her ribs. His face was so close now, his breath warm against her skin. This is insane, she whispered, but her voice trembled, his lips curved in the faintest smirk. It is. And then, before she could stop it, his mouth crashed against hers. The kiss was fire, fierce, desperate, and consuming. Every ounce of tension that had built between them exploded in that moment. She clutched at his shirt, torn between pulling him closer and pushing him away, but her body betrayed her. She didn't want to resist. When he finally pulled back, their breaths mingled in the heavy silence. His eyes searched hers, raw and unguarded for the first time. "You don't understand, Amara," he murmured, his forehead resting against hers. "Once you're in my world, there's no way out." Her heart raced, torn between terror and longing. But even as her mind screamed to run, her lips whispered the truth, "Then maybe I don't want a way out." Outside. Lightning split the sky, thunder rolling like a warning. Inside, a bond had been sealed, dangerous, forbidden, but unbreakable, a blood oath written not in words, but in a kiss that neither of them could take back. The storm had passed, but the air in the penthouse was still heavy. Amara lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her lips still burning from Dongho's kiss. Sleep was impossible, her mind was a battlefield, reason screaming at her to escape, her heart betraying her with a pull she couldn't explain. When dawn broke, she found herself wandering the hallways of his home. That's when she noticed it, a door left slightly ajar. Curiosity tugged at her. She pushed it open. Inside, the room was nothing like the polished elegance of the rest of the penthouse. It was small, almost untouched. On the walls hung old photographs, a young boy with wide eyes, a little girl laughing beside him, and a stern-looking man in a suit. On the desk sat a single framed picture, the same boy, about 10 years old, clutching a toy sword, his smile proud and innocent. Amara's breath caught. "Dongho, don't touch that." The voice behind her was sharp, cold. She spun around to find him in the doorway, his expression unreadable, though his eyes were darker than she'd ever seen. "I wasn't," she began, but the words faltered. "This is you, isn't it?" Dongho stepped inside slowly, his gaze fixed on the photograph. "That boy doesn't exist anymore." Amara studied him carefully. For once, the armor he wore seemed fragile, like a mask ready to crack. "What happened to him?" she asked softly. For a long time, he said nothing. Then, finally, his voice came, low and jagged. "My father was the head of this empire. Ruthless. Feared. I hated him. But I wanted his approval. Then one night, everything burned." Amara's eyes widened. "Burned?" Dongho's jaw clenched, his fists curling at his sides. "A rival clan attacked. They killed my parents in front of me. I was only 12. Yoon-hee was 6. I dragged her out while the house collapsed around us. From that day, I swore. No one would ever take from me again. Not her. Not anything." Amara's heart ached. The image of a terrified boy carrying his little sister through flames branded itself into her mind. She stepped closer, her voice trembling. "So you built walls. You became what you hated. Just to protect her." He looked at her then, and for the first time, his mask slipped completely. His eyes glistened, not with weakness, but with a pain so deep it was carved into his soul. "I became the monster," he admitted. "Because only monsters survive in this world." Without thinking, Amara reached out and touched his hand. His skin was warm, tense, but he didn't pull away. "You're not a monster, Dongho," she whispered. "You're a man who's been carrying too much for too long." His throat bobbed, and for a moment, silence filled the space. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, "You shouldn't care for me. It will destroy you." But the way his hand tightened around hers betrayed him. He wanted her to care, and Amara, despite every warning, every fear, already did. The city pulsed with neon light as night fell, but inside the penthouse, Amara couldn't shake the gnawing unease in her chest. Dongho had been gone for hours, his warning echoed in her mind, "Don't open the door. Don't answer the phone." She hugged her knees on the couch, glancing every few seconds at the door, at the shadows that stretched long and dark across the room. Then, a knock, soft at first, almost polite, her breath caught. She froze. The knock came again, louder this time. "Room service," a voice called in accented English. Amara frowned. "Room service?" This wasn't a hotel, her instincts screamed, but the voice came again, more urgent. "Mr. Kong requested this delivery." She rose slowly, padding toward the door. Her hand hovered over the lock. He said not to open it, but before she could decide, the door burst open. 2 men in black masks stormed in, grabbing her before she could scream. A cloth pressed over her mouth, the sickly sweet scent of chemicals filling her nose, her vision blurred, the world spinning into blackness. When she woke, her wrists were bound, her mouth dry. She was in a warehouse, concrete walls, dim light flickering from a single bulb above. The smell of rust and oil choked the air. A man stepped forward, his suit sharp but his smile cruel. "So you're the woman who's stolen the Black Dragon's attention," he sneered. "Dong-ho has made many enemies, but now he's given us leverage." Amara's heart pounded. She struggled against the ropes, her voice hoarse. "You're making a mistake. He'll come for me." The man chuckled darkly. "We're counting on it." Back in the city, Dong-ho's phone rang, his lieutenant's panicked voice cracked through the line, "Boss, they've taken her." For a moment, Dong-ho said nothing. His grip on the phone tightened, his jaw set like stone. When he spoke, his voice was calm. Terrifyingly calm. "Find out where. Gather everyone. No survivors." The warehouse doors exploded open hours later, gunfire roared as Dong-ho's men stormed in. Shadows moved like phantoms, bullets finding their targets with merciless precision, and then he appeared. Dong-ho stepped through the chaos, a pistol in one hand, his eyes blazing with fury. He cut through his enemies like a storm. Swift and unstoppable, when he reached Amara, his breath was ragged, his shirt stained with blood, not his own. His hands shook as he cut the ropes from her wrists. "Amara," he said, his voice rough with something she'd never heard before, fear. Her vision blurred with tears as she fell into his arms. "I knew you'd come," she whispered. He held her tightly, his heart pounding against hers, his voice a vow, "They will never touch you again. I'll kill them all before I let them." For the first time, Amara understood. Dong-ho wasn't just dangerous. He wasn't just powerful, he was a man willing to burn the world to ashes. For her, the penthouse was silent again, but the silence carried a different weight now. Amara sat on the edge of the bed, her body trembling, her mind still replaying every moment of her abduction. The ropes, the cruel laughter, the fear that she might never see freedom again. Then she thought of him, the fury in his eyes as he stormed through the warehouse. The way he cut her free, like nothing else in the world mattered but her. Her heart raced at the memory. The door opened quietly, and Dong-ho stepped inside. His shirt was gone, replaced by fresh clothes, but his knuckles were still bloodied, his movements sharp with restrained rage. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither spoke. "You're safe now," he said finally, his voice low and steady. Amara swallowed hard. "Safe? I was taken because of you. Because of us." His jaw tightened. "That's why they're dead." The bluntness of his words made her flinch. He didn't say captured or punished. He said dead. She rose to her feet, anger mixing with confusion. "Do you even hear yourself, Dong-ho? You talk about killing like it's nothing." His eyes darkened. He stepped closer. His presence overwhelming. "Because in my world, it is nothing. In my world, killing is survival. And if survival means keeping you alive, then yes, Amara, I'll kill for you. Again and again. Her chest rose and fell, her emotions warring inside her. Fear. Desire. Anger. Longing. You can't just, she began, but her voice faltered as he reached for her, his hand cupped her face, gentler now, his thumb brushing away the tears she hadn't realized had fallen. I can't lose you, he whispered, the tremor in his voice betraying the steel in his words. Not after everything. You're mine now. Before she could protest, his lips crashed onto hers, urgent and consuming. This kiss was different, not just fire, but desperation. His hands gripped her waist, pulling her closer, as though he needed proof she was real, alive. Amara melted into him, her fingers tangling in his hair. Every nerve in her body burned, every ounce of logic drowned beneath the tidal wave of emotion. When they broke apart, her breath was ragged, her body trembling. This is wrong, she whispered. His forehead rested against hers, his voice husky and raw. Then let it be wrong. Because it's the only thing that feels real. Her heart pounded as she met his gaze, and for the first time, she admitted the truth to herself. She didn't just want him. She loved him, even if that love was forbidden, even if it meant stepping into shadows she might never escape. The days that followed the kidnapping blurred into one another. Dong-ho tightened security around the penthouse, posting guards at every exit, checking in with Amara constantly. To her surprise, he wasn't just protective, he was attentive. He asked about her nightmares, sat with her when she couldn't sleep, and, at times, simply held her in silence. It almost felt safe, almost, but shadows always found their way back into Dong-ho's world. One evening, Amara wandered into his office, curiosity pulling her toward the mountain of files scattered across his desk. The papers weren't business contracts, they were surveillance photos, maps, coded ledgers. Evidence of his empire. Her chest tightened. This was the life he lived. A life drenched in secrets, in violence. Can I really love a man like this? Before she could think further, the office door opened. Dong-ho's lieutenant, a tall, lean man named Jae-min, froze in the doorway. His eyes narrowed. You shouldn't be in here, he said coldly. Amara straightened. I wasn't touching anything. Jae-min's gaze lingered on her, sharp and suspicious. Then he stepped aside, his expression unreadable. Be careful, Miss Johnson. Curiosity can be dangerous. Something about the way he said it made her shiver. That night, Dong-ho left for a meeting with his men. Amara sat by the window, restless, when she noticed something odd. One of the guards stationed outside was on his phone, whispering urgently. His eyes darted toward the penthouse, his face pale. Moments later, another guard approached, whispering something into his ear. The first guard nodded and slipped away into the darkness. Amara's stomach dropped. Something's wrong. Meanwhile, at the meeting, Dong-ho leaned over the table, his voice sharp as he outlined their next move against the rival clan. His men nodded, loyal and obedient, except for one, Jae-min. He kept his head low, but his phone buzzed silently in his pocket. A coded message flashed across the screen. Deliver her. Tonight, his fingers tightened around the device. His jaw clenched, and in that moment, the truth was clear. Dong-ho's most trusted man was betraying him. Back at the penthouse, Amara heard the faintest creak of the door. She turned, her heart skipping a beat. Jae-min stepped inside, his smile thin and cold. Miss Johnson, he said softly, almost mockingly, we're going for a little ride. Her blood ran cold. At that same moment, Dong-ho's instincts flared. A chill slid down his spine. He glanced at the empty chair where Jae-min should have been. Where is he? Dong-ho demanded. No answer. Just silence, and suddenly, he knew. Amara. His pulse thundered as he bolted from the table, his mind screaming one truth: she's in danger. Again, the black sedan tore through Seoul streets, its tinted windows hiding Amara's terrified face. Jae-min sat beside her, his expression cold, his gun resting casually in his lap. "Why?" she demanded, her voice shaking. "You were supposed to protect him. To protect us." He glanced at her, his lips curling into a bitter smile. "Protect him? Dong-ho destroyed my family to build his empire. I've been waiting years for this chance. And now? You're the key to tearing him down." Amara's heart pounded, fear clawing at her chest. But beneath it was something fiercer, anger. Back at the penthouse, Dong-ho stormed into the armory, his men scrambling to arm themselves. His voice was like steel. "Jae-min has betrayed us. He's taken Amara. No more hiding. No more waiting. Tonight, we end this." His soldiers roared their agreement, loading rifles, sliding blades into belts, but Dong-ho's eyes burned with something deeper than vengeance. This wasn't just about the empire, this was about her. The rendezvous was an abandoned shipyard at the edge of the city. Containers loomed like silent towers, shadows stretching under the pale moonlight. Amara was dragged from the car, her wrists bound. Dozens of armed men stood waiting, their laughter echoing in the night. Jae-min shoved her forward, his voice ringing out, "Dong-ho. Come and see what loyalty has bought you." The sound of engines cut through the night. Black SUVs skidded to a stop, doors slamming. Dong-ho emerged, flanked by his men, his presence electric, his rage barely leashed. His eyes locked on Amara, bound, trembling, but defiant. "Let her go, Jae-min," Dong-ho growled, his voice low and deadly. Jae-min smirked. "Or what? You'll kill me, like you killed my brother? Like you killed everyone who stood in your way?" He pressed a gun to Amara's temple. "This ends tonight." For a heartbeat, silence reigned, then, chaos, gunfire erupted, the night exploding with light and sound. Men fell, cries of pain echoing as bullets ripped through the air. Dong-ho moved like a phantom, ruthless, precise, every shot a promise of vengeance. His men clashed with the enemy in a brutal dance of blood and fire. Through it all, his eyes never left Amara. She struggled against her bindings, ducking as bullets whizzed past. Fear threatened to consume her, but she remembered his words, "You're mine now." And she refused to break. Finally, Dong-ho reached her. He kicked Jae-min's gun away, pinning him to the ground with a brutal strike, but Jae-min laughed, blood dripping from his mouth. "You can kill me, but you'll never escape what you are. She'll never survive in your world." Dong-ho's eyes burned with fury as he raised his gun. For a moment, Amara thought he would pull the trigger without hesitation, but instead, his hand trembled. He looked at her, really looked at her. And in that moment, she saw the war inside him, the mafia boss who killed without mercy. And the man who couldn't bear to let her see him become a monster again. With a roar, he slammed the gun down beside Jae-min's head. "You're not worth the bullet." His men dragged the traitor away as Dong-ho cut Amara's bindings. She collapsed into his arms, her body shaking. "I thought I lost you," she whispered, tears streaking her cheeks. His embrace was fierce, his voice breaking against her ear. "You'll never lose me. Not while I'm still breathing." The war wasn't over, but in that moment, victory was his, because she was still in his arms. The shipyard still smelled of smoke and gunpowder. Dong-ho stood on the balcony of his penthouse later that night, staring at the city lights. To anyone else, they glittered like jewels. To him, they looked like chains. Behind him, Amara sat quietly on the couch, watching his rigid back. She could feel the storm in him, the war between who he was and who he wanted to be. Finally, she rose and crossed the room. "You saved me," she said softly. "But you're still not free, Dong-ho." "Not really." His shoulders tensed. "This world is all I know." She placed a hand on his arm, forcing him to look at her. His eyes were haunted, tired, older than his years, then choose something else. Choose me. The words hung heavy between them, Dong-ho's jaw tightened. If I walk away, everything I've built will collapse. My men will scatter. My enemies will rise. And Yoon-hee. His voice cracked, just barely. What kind of future would I give her then? Amara's heart ached at the pain in his voice. What kind of future do you give her if you're dead or in prison? She doesn't need a king of shadows. She needs her brother alive. Her words cut deep, sharper than any blade. Dong-ho turned away. Gripping the railing, his knuckles white. You don't understand. Power is survival. Without it, I am nothing. Amara stepped closer, her voice trembling but strong. You're wrong. You are everything, to your sister, to the men who would die for you. And to me. Don't you see? You don't need power. You just need to live. With me. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence, then, finally, his mask cracked. His hand covered hers on the railing, his voice breaking, Amara. I don't know if I can let it go. She met his gaze, her eyes brimming with tears. Then one day, it won't be me your enemies take. It'll be you. And I can't survive that. The weight of her words shattered something inside him. For the first time in years, Dong-ho felt the walls he had built around his heart collapsing. He pulled her into his arms, holding her as if she were the only anchor keeping him from drowning. Stay with me, he whispered. No matter what I choose. Amara closed her eyes, resting her head against his chest. I will. But choose wisely, Dong-ho. Because once you do, there's no turning back. The following days were quiet, too quiet. Dong-ho cancelled meetings, cut off communication with rival clans, and barely left the penthouse. His men whispered in confusion, but no one dared question him. Amara knew why. He was deciding. Every night, he stood by the window, staring at the city that had crowned him king of the underworld. And chained him to blood. One evening, he finally spoke. Amara, he said softly, not taking his eyes off the city lights, what if I told you I was ready to give it all up? Her breath caught. I'd say it's the bravest thing you've ever done. He turned then, his gaze steady, though his voice carried the weight of centuries. Leaving this life means burning bridges I can never rebuild. My enemies will come for me. The police will hunt me. There will be no throne to return to. Amara stepped closer, her hand brushing his. Then let it burn. We don't need a throne. We just need each other. For a long moment, he studied her face. Then he nodded once, decisively, it's done. That night, Dong-ho gathered his most loyal men. I'm dissolving the Black Dragons, he announced. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the room, but his tone left no space for doubt. Those who wish to stay will be protected. Those who wish to leave, go. But know this, the empire ends tonight. No one argued. The legend of the Black Dragon was finished. 2 weeks later, the news exploded across Korea. Mafia boss Dong-ho reported dead in warehouse fire. The world believed the King of Shadows had perished in flames. His enemies celebrated. The police closed their files, but Amara knew the truth. She found him months later, far from Seoul, in a quiet coastal town where the sea met the sky. He was sitting on a wooden pier, dressed simply, no longer the ruthless figure draped in power. He looked free. Her voice trembled as she whispered, Dong-ho. He turned, and the moment his eyes met hers, the weight of everything they had endured melted away. Amara, he breathed, rising to his feet. She ran to him, and he caught her in his arms, holding her as though the universe itself had brought her back. Tears streamed down her face as she clung to him. I thought I lost you. He pressed his forehead to hers, his voice raw with emotion. "You'll never lose me. Not again. Not in this life. Not in any life." The waves crashed against the shore, the horizon glowing with the colors of dawn, and there, on that quiet pier, Amara and Dong-ho sealed their fate, not as mafia boss and forbidden love, but as two souls who chose each other, no matter the cost. They were no longer bound by blood, or by fear, they were bound by fate. Thank you for watching. See you in our next video. Click the subscribe button to always